There was a lot going on, Mike, coming out of the owners' meetings today. Arthur Smith spoke to D. Orlando Ledbetter. He spoke to the reporters that were there, but D. Led's going to join us later in the show as he's been out there the last couple of days in Phoenix taking it all in. And we haven't heard from Arthur Smith pretty much all off season, right? I mean, it's been the general manager. We thought we'd hear from him at the Combine. He didn't speak. Today he spoke. And what did he say that has everybody's attention? Basically saying that Desmond Ridder is quarterback number one, and he believes that Desmond Ridder is going to take the next step.
Right.
This is kind of what we've been waiting for. I said it. I want to hear the GM. I want to hear the coach say it. So today, Arthur Smith said it. But does this take you out of the running potentially for Lamar? Now, everybody's saying that we have no shot and we're not in the mix. Mike, all these teams, the Falcons, the Colts, the Reds, or the Commanders, should I say, the Titans, they're still on Vegas's board as the top teams to potentially land this guy. Now, the irony to me is the Falcons have the best odds. They're plus 250. They're plus 250.
But aren't they? Isn't Vegas looking at the teams with the most money, cap space wise, or teams that have cap space? As part of that, as part of why they would get those kind of odds.
Well, ironically, the Jets are on here, right? But they're like fifth or sixth because I think everybody thinks that Aaron Rodgers is going to go to the Jets. But the Jets don't have a lot of money. They're plus 900.
Yeah, but again, as you said, I mean, unless you were the Falcons for the last 4 years, everybody else finds a way. The Saints are the poster boys for being dead. I mean, let's be honest. They were so in the red, they'd be literally like $40 million over the cap and find a way to sign free agents every year. So that doesn't always tell the whole story.
I'm just curious how people feel, okay? And we're going to play the Arthur Smith for you. But before we do, I want you to hear what Rich Eisen said, because he said something that I thought was very interesting, directed solely at the Falcons, okay? Now, this is after the tweet came out yesterday, and Rich Eisen, you guys know, NFL Network Connected. He does his radio show. We all love Rich. But he was talking about why Lamar put this tweet out, and he said he believes this was intended, Mike, to get Arthur Blank to say, hey, I'm still out here.
Right.
Listen to this.
Louis Riddick, when he said the Atlanta Falcons are a freaking perfect spot. Now, again, we had Thomas Dimitroff, the former general manager of the Falcons, on last week, and I said to him, hey, you know, what do you think is going on in Atlanta where they are not interested? They were one of the first teams to be publicly out there saying we're not in on them, because I do believe Peter Schrager, my colleague from NFL Network and also Fox Sports, contacted somebody in the Falcons organization. That was one of the first tweets that I saw when Lamar got slapped with the non-exclusive franchise tag. They're not interested. And that's one of the teams that has been put out there by a bunch of people, including J.J. Watt, saying, why are you so public about it? And Thomas Dimitroff said, hey, you know, they were in cap hell for a while. They're out of it. They're finally out of it. And this has been the plan. Like, this is the year. They're finally out of it. They're through paying the credit card of Matt Ryan, or mostly through. I don't know the exact numbers. They drafted Desmond Ridder. They're going into the year with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. That's why they signed him. Let's go. And they just went crazy in free agency by signing a whole bunch of people. Jesse Bates is a centerpiece in the back end of that defense. So clearly that's the plan. And he also said that Arthur Smith is making the call to essentially say, where Arthur Blank's like, you're the coach, you make the call, along with Terry Fontenot, the general manager. You make the call. And they're like, no, we'll stick with what we currently have. So this tweet today is intended to basically say to people like Arthur Blank, really?
Come get me.
You don't want me? Really? Really? Because this dance that you think is going to end up with me staying with the Ravens, and this whole thing that's where the Ravens are allowing me to seek my market is going to leave me with no other option than to go back to the Ravens, or, you know, you sign me, the Ravens are going to match it. I've already told them I don't want to be there anymore. So take that one off the table. They're not going to match it because I already told them I don't want to be there anymore. And in this day and age, when somebody as talented as I am says I don't want to be there anymore, guess what? Happened for Devontae Adams, going to happen for me. Or it happened for name anybody in the NFL who's said I want out and they're finally out. So he wants out. And it takes somebody like Arthur Blank, because I don't think it's coming from the general manager, unless that GM is so confident in his job and they go to the owner and go, hey, what do you think we just, you know, all those plans we've been talking to you about, all those meetings we had in December and January and February, Let's scrap him. Let's totally change everything. Let's go. And you just got to scratch that huge-ass check, stick it in escrow. You up for that? It's going to take someone like Arthur Blank to walk in the room and say, you know what?
Let's do it.
I'm just going to walk over to Steve Bisciotti in that private room, have a chit-chat. And then I'm going to go to my guys and say, I know I delegated. I know what we talked about. Let's call the Ravens today. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. Rich does paint the scenario, and the only scenario that I can see happening anytime soon. He nails it. I mean, he knows he through thick or thin, he has a good idea what this team's about and how Arthur Blank runs things.
He says that Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, according to the former general manager, are making the calls. So when I hear Arthur Smith today say that Desmond Ridder, and we're going to play it for you, right. And again, this was, they're in a conference room, guys. They're at a table. There's recorders on the table. So we apologize for the audio. It's not us, but right. This is what was passed on. But I want you to hear what he said about Desmond Ridder.
Very clear. The plan is obviously to start Desmond. That's our plan going forward right now.
So it's clear, he's talking about we plan on starting Desmond. We want him to take the next step. That's what he's basically saying. And we'll talk to D-Led about this coming up.
And as he did in previous years, he also answered a question by saying, I only talk about guys on my roster. I talk about players I have.
Yes, because if he was to say anything about Lamar, well, that would be taboo because they haven't said anything about him. But yet they made it very public and were one of the first teams, as we just heard from Rich Eisen. We said it the day we were on the air. You immediately came out and refuted this stuff. Here's where I'm at, guys. It's Dukes and Bell at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. Follow us. He's Mike Bell, ATL. I'm at Put 'em Up. See Dukes. This radio show, Dukes and Bell 92.9. Follow the radio station at 92.9 The Game. Stay up on everything that's going on across Facebook, Instagram, and across all social media platforms. As we talk about this today, and this thing is, again, everybody's saying, okay, it's a done deal. I won't know it's a done deal until it's a done deal. And I think, again, as Mike and I talked about yesterday, and a guy called in the Steak Show today, Mike, and he said, I was listening to Dukes and Bell, and they were saying whether you do it before the draft, because some people feel like the Ravens want that pick, and I'm not saying ours, I'm saying anybody's. It could be the Colts. Or you do it after the draft, and you're giving away future first-round picks, because I don't know what the Ravens' plan is. We had a guest on yesterday. He didn't know what the Ravens' plans are going to be. I think it was Kadri Ismail. And he was saying, I don't know what their plan is. My point about this is, how do you feel about it now that Arthur Smith has said it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not getting Lamar Jackson. I think that it's not going to happen. I do believe that I agree with what Rich Eisen said because, as I said, he's got a pretty good take on this franchise. And Arthur Blank, we asked Arthur the last time we spoke to him at the Super Bowl was, are you a meddler? And he said, no, his meddling days, he said he's not a meddler. And if he was a meddler, his meddling days are over. That's what I got.
I don't worry about players that never coach, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, that was Julio.
And look, I get it. It's something that would be exciting. It's something that would energize the fan base. It would bring the fans who aren't Falcon fans back into the stadium. But it ain't happening. So I think you got to stop talking about it because it ain't happening.
Are you telling me that Mr. Blank won't do what Rich Eisen just pointed out that he could do?
Is he going to do this? See, this is where we get in the little tricky. Because I think Arthur told them to go try to get Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
And it blew up in their face. And you end up basically having to give Matt Ryan away for next to nothing. And that was an embarrassment. And I don't think he'll go down that road again. Yeah. Now, and then also the other thing, and this is where it really gets murky, have the owners colluded to say we're not throwing guaranteed money at this guy, regardless of his MVP status.
Now,
injuries aside, we're talking about straight about the guaranteed money.